Hi, Phil the Engineer back again. In previous blogs I've provided the basics of the 4 R's driving healthcare cost: research, regulatory, reimbursement, and risk. Today I would like to examine how the FDA regulatory practices affect our healthcare costs. The FDA is of course responsible for product safety oversight. I might add that the FDA does a very good job at minimizing the risk to the consumer. But a secondary role that has become just as prominent as safety is efficacy. At first glance, this seems to be perfectly reasonable. We obviously want to know if something works before we lay down our hard-earned cash to purchase it. What does it mean when we say that a pharmaceutical works? If a drug is for pain relief, does it mean that 100% of the people that use the product will have their pain relieved? No. It means that a percentage of the people with a certain type of pain will have their pain relieved. Based on statistical measures, it is determined if the percentage of people that benefited actually benefited from the drug or from other factors such as placebo effect. The variability comes from the fact that we are all different and will metabolize drugs differently. We also have no way of controlling where the drug goes once it enters the body, so it may not necessarily be effective for the type of pain that we are experiencing. In addition, this lack of specific target can result in side effects. These side effects and their occurrence and intensity may also be variable. This pain example is relatively straightforward. You either have pain after the intervention or you don't. But as you move into more complicated diseases like neurological disorders, it becomes more difficult to define outcome measures due to the variability of symptomatic presentation, as well as variability in response to different types of interventions. This variability results in the need for larger study groups to prove efficacy. Large study groups add time and cost. Variability also increases risk to the manufacturer that the intervention will not produce the predicted results. So let's look at my specific experience with Parkinson's disease. Since there is no diagnostic for PD, it is diagnosed by elimination of other causes, presentation of at least 2 of the 3 cardinal features of the disease, and eventual response to PD medications. As a patient, you quickly learn that there is only one absolute with PD. There are no absolutes. Our presentation of symptoms is very heterogeneous, very different, as well as our response to PD medications. So there's only one way to find out if a medication will work for you without intolerable side effects. Try it. PD patients are used to making informed decisions on what medications work for us individually. We navigate this maze through the knowledge that we gain from not only our physicians, but also through support groups, symposiums, and literature. If you want to know if a drug works for a PD patient, ask them. But of course this isn't scientific enough for the FDA or the rest of the scientific community for that matter. Complicated protocols that supposedly thwart the so-called placebo effect and are powered, a statistical term, to ensure that the effect is actually the result of the medication under test, are produced. But given heterogeneous disorders like PD, the required sample size increases in order to prove the desired effect. This of course translates to more money and more time for the approval process. The longer approval time delays the introduction into the marketplace, delaying the revenue stream for the manufacturer. Wall Street isn't happy and the manufacturer's stock prices go down, hampering their ability to attract capital for further research and development. So here are 2 examples to demonstrate how this affects our healthcare costs and treatment outcomes. I participated in the Phase 2 through Phase 4 clinical trials for a PD drug called istradefylline. The study was stopped by the FDA because it did not demonstrate efficacy per the protocol, even though myself and others reported other beneficial effects. There were over 600 patients in the study at the time, so all the money invested by the manufacturer was lost. Testing, however, continued in Europe, where regulation is much less stringent, and the drug is now approved there. When will it be approved here? Well, this is difficult to say since workload and staffing issues at the FDA have forced them to focus on drugs with safety issues. Another drug, Nupro, a dopamine agonist delivered through a transdermal patch, was approved in Europe and then a warning issued not to administer the drug to new patients until crystallization in the patch could be investigated. After further investigation, it was found that the crystallization was the result of storage temperature issues. The issue was corrected and the restriction was lifted in Europe. In the U.S., the company pulled the drug off the market. They are working on a new formulation requiring recertification of the drug in the U.S. So why do manufacturers move more slowly in the U.S. market versus Europe? Well, number one is that we are the most litigious nation in the world. We can't be trusted to properly store the patches. Our products must therefore be idiot-proof. Number two is that in general our regulatory requirements are much more stringent. So the net result of this, who knows when the drug will be available in the U.S. So what is the takeaway here? Well, there are many. One is that overregulation and lack of tort reform increases certification costs and delays introduction of the drug to the marketplace, thereby delaying the revenue stream or requiring continued investment by the manufacturer. These costs will eventually reach the consumer through higher drug prices. If there are staffing or budget issues in the regulatory agency, this has the same effect of delaying the revenue stream. These delays also negatively impact outcome measures, since physicians have truer treatment options compared to their European counterpart. As with end-of-life decisions, quality-of-life decisions in elder years play an important role in determining treatment options. Rather than provide information so that patient and physician can make an informed decision about treatment options, as is done in Europe, we in the U.S. wait for the FDA to make it idiot-proof, adding cost to our products. But even safety has to be put into perspective. PD is considered a geriatric disease since the average age of onset is age 60. If I were to try the patch and found that it was extremely effective at relieving my symptoms, I could make an informed decision about the risk of a crystallization problem causing an adverse effect. But I can only make that decision if I have the opportunity and the information to make an informed decision. After all, participation in any drug study is a risk, since no one really knows the drug's long-term adverse effect in humans. Once again, we must make an informed decision to participate based on data presented in the consent form, usually derived from mice and non-human primate experiments. But a drug's FDA approval is no guarantee either. Pergolide, one of the early dopamine agonists, was found to cause heart valve problems after 15 to 20 years of use. Of course, we are all aware of the issues with Vioxx. But even when Vioxx issues were disclosed, many patients still wanted the drug. Once again, for them, it is a quality of life issue. So with any healthcare reform, we don't need the government making more decisions for us. The government should be ensuring that timely data are available in an understandable format so that we can make informed decisions ourselves in conjunction with our physician. We make decisions every day on dietary supplements, so we are not complete idiots. It boils down to quality of life versus risk. I don't need a government agency making those decisions for me. I need the government to provide me with the information that helps me make informed decisions. Regulatory requirements should be modified to be more in line with European regulations. Tort reform must be passed in order to control costs in any system. This is true reform. Senator Warner has introduced a bill to educate seniors so that they have the knowledge to make informed decisions about end of life. We need similar legislation to help us all make quality of life decisions when considering an intervention. Relying on the government to make these decisions for us results in a long and costly process. We will not always be right, but neither is the FDA. One simply has to review the list of drugs removed from marketing by the FDA. Government takeover of healthcare is not reform. It is nothing more than a government takeover of healthcare. Since the 4 R's of healthcare costs are being ignored in the current approach to so-called reform, costs will continue to rise. So instead of higher premiums, we'll be paying higher taxes. It is even more important now that we are on this road to socialized medicine that we don't let bureaucracy make our quality of life decisions for us. It is even more important to remain diligent in our efforts to pursue painless cost-cutting measures such as regulatory reform to help lower the cost of prescription drugs. Thanks for your time.